Welcome to the Creative Play and Podcast Network. Join us as we share our favorite RPGs, one-shot games, tabletop games, reviews, and convention panels. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Kelly, aka Trixie from Ragnarok and Roll, assigned to Ragnarok Story, and Tilda Wimblewick from D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. First off, I would just like to say thank you to everyone for listening to our varied adventures, as well as for rating us on iTunes and RPGpodcast.com. If you haven't rated us yet, we would greatly appreciate it if you could. And if you're looking for more ways to support our efforts, we are now on Patreon, a great site where you can help us continue making more podcasts, as well as some special surprises for our patrons. If you can, please look us up at www.patreon.com/cppn. Every little bit helps. And again, thank you for listening.
How's everybody doing? Good. Awesome. How's the con been for everybody so far?
Fantastic.
I love this convention more than any other convention. I've been to some big ones. I've gone to ones that people would be impressed with. This is by far my favorite. By far. Let's go ahead and get started. My name is Brian Haas. I am a film critic for 30 years, filmmaker. I've produced well over 1,000 podcasts at this point. Screenwriter. Just this last year, I placed 10th in the New York City short screenplay contest. It's just a couple of, it's like 1,500 people, so I was really super stoked about that. And I just finished a screenplay, like literally days ago, that I think is probably the best thing I've ever written. So, and I come here to get in the right mind frame to write and talk about things that I love, like horror. So, that's me.
I'm Jill Knowles. I write horror and dark fantasy, and I think the other relevant thing is I just so happens I work at Barnes & Noble, and we just had Halloween, and so I've got a whole bunch of books that I think will fit with our discussion that I can recommend because they're fabulous.
My name is John Hornor Jacobs. I'm a novelist. I've written around 11 novels. I am also a screenwriter. I'm best known for my latest work, A Lesson Seething Hell. It's been optioned for television by the production company that did Black Panther, by the screenwriter of Black Panther.
Oh, yeah.
And my fiction has appeared in like Southwest Review and Playboy magazine and various other places. Anyway, and I love horror. I love horror films and I love horror books, and I like all the creepy stuff.
Hello, my name is Marty Ketola. I'm a local filmmaker. I've made 5 films over the last 15 years or so. My 4th film is called Revenge of Zoe. It's currently on Tubi, where a lot of good movies are to watch.
Tubi's the best.
And my latest movie, Love Song of William H. Shaw, we shot some scenes for it here at TusCon about 3 years ago. And so that'll finally be coming out early next year, and we're going to be showing some clips from it in the video room tonight.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What time?
Oh, around 10 o'clock-ish.
I'll totally be there.
Cool.
Sweet. All right, so we're going to talk about some bold horror statements today. I love this. I've done this panel at so many different conventions, and I really love this one. My first bold horror statement, right now, this very second, is the best that horror films have ever been in the entirety of the history of film. Right now. And people go, well, how can you say that? It's a bunch of remakes and a bunch of, reboots and reimagings and all that, right? If that's what you think, sure, maybe some of the mainstream stuff is, but there is a plethora of stuff out there from lots of diverse voices that are just giving me amazing stories from different perspectives that I could never even imagine in a million years. And it is just a wealth of movies out there right now. So I'm just going to these are just ones from like the last year or so. Wendell and Wild, which is on Netflix. Werewolf by Night, which is fucking amazing. Oh my God. Deadstream. Dark Glasses, the new Dario Argento. There's a bunch of like trash filmmakers that I love. Psycho Ape, Don't Fuck in the Woods 1 and 2, both on Tubi. You should watch them. Kara's Hell and Kara's Hell II, about a killer unicorn that's on a carousel. So yes, that's really a thing. The new Hellraiser is amazing. After 30 years of getting kicked in the teeth, we finally get a good Hellraiser. Barbarian, when the screaming starts, glorious. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Pussycake and Pennywise, The Story of It, are both on Screambox right now. It's a great service if you've never heard it. Prey was pretty good. I think people like Prey. The Black Phone, Hellbender, The Stylist, Lucky, Malignant, The Night House, My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To, The Empty Man, Vicious Fun, where I could just keep going for like the rest of this time and just talk about these movies. But again, it's like diverse voices. I've seen so many people of color get opportunities to write and direct movies. I'm seeing a lot of trans filmmakers get opportunities now. That would have never. There's an 18-year-old trans girl in Australia named Alice. Shit, that's gonna bother me. But she made a movie called So Vamp that's on Shudder. It's amazing. She just finished another movie that I just saw at a film festival. It's even better. She's 18 years old. I'm furious at how talented she is. I was like, what? You're this focused at 18 years old? What are you doing? So I say right now is the best time that we've ever had for horror movies.
And I would put the same out there for fiction. There are so many books out that are just incredible. They're from the Native Americans. There's some amazing Native American horror out there. There's some funny stuff. It's just really unique takes on the things that scare us, and it makes me so happy.
So what do you guys think? Is right now the best time for horror?
I've not noticed it.
You've not noticed it?
Not noticed it?
I agree with your general statement, because it's horror, and I think a lot of the success of horror fiction is cross-fertilized by the success of horror films and television. So it gets people into the world, into like sort of liking horror. I think it's really, I think one of the things that really is the driving motivator for diverse voices in horror is Jordan Peele's ascent.
Oh God, what a godsend he was.
Like, you can't talk about like the rise of modern horror without addressing, the Jordan Peele's effect of like using horror as like obvious social commentary. Even though George Romero was doing it, 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah, right.
But he drove it home for more diverse voices. So yeah, there's a lot going on. And also, traditionally, you can make, a horror. There's a couple of movies that you can make that are real cheap. You can have a bunch of teens and a bucket of blood and a knife and a mask in a single location, and you can make a horror movie, right? I mean, traditionally, a Cabin in the Woods, right? But there's crime, which is horror's sort of kissing cousin.
Yeah.
And porn.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Because a lot of horror has,
the sexual overtones.
Yeah. The sex equals death. Don't fuck in the woods.
Yeah. Don't fuck in the woods. 1 and 2. There's 2 of them.
I really want to see that.
It's really good.
I think film, just in general, is probably at the best place it's ever been right now. Just across the board with all the genres. They all kind of feed into each other. The same people work on all the different movies anyway. But yeah, I think it's just been a great time. Of course, you get a lot of garbage along with it, but that's just because there's more of everything. But
you get oversaturation for sure, because it's largely democratized now. The digital revolution made it so that everybody can make films, and so because of that, everybody can make films now. So you sometimes can get lost in the crowd, but I think it's great because it gives everybody an opportunity.
Yeah, it's but there's a law, and I can't remember the guy who made it up, but it's like 90% of everything is crap.
Right. It's got to find the good stuff.
Yeah, but also like the thing about crappy horror though is it's still enjoyable.
Sure.
Like
pizza.
It's
like even a bad pizza's not that bad. Still pizza.
That's a cry, folks. There's so many bad martial arts movies out there, but even the bad ones are wonderful.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just so in awe of anybody that can make a film. Like, make any film that exists is a miracle. It really is. It's so hard to make a film, and to get that many collaborators to do one thing and then get it released and get distribution on top of that. So yeah, I see those movies that have zero production value, and I still love them because like somebody put their heart and soul into that. You know, I think it's great. What's your first bold horror statement?
One of the books, there's two of them so far that are really interesting, and I've seen it done, I've never seen it done really well. There is a wonderful comedic horror, probably going to be a third at least, and a fourth book. Kira Jane Buxton, Hollow Kingdom is the first book, Feral Creatures is the second book. It is a zombie apocalypse as told from the point of view of a pet crow. And so it looks at how, and it's silly, I mean, and there's parts that will make you laugh so hard you snort. There are many parts. But there are also some scary parts, and it really makes you think. What happens to all those nuclear power plants when there's no more humans to run them? Well, things go wrong. You know, what happens to the poodle that's locked inside and the owner's just got eaten by a zombie? How do we save that poodle? So it's a unique take on just how much impact humanity has had on this planet and how quickly that can just go wrong, and then nobody cares and you just go on. And I feel like they're really fun, they're really funny, incredibly well written, and you will be thinking about everything you see around you after you read them. So I feel like that was pretty bold to look at it from a humorous perspective.
I like that. I like the idea of a pet crow having the opinion about everything.
His name is Shit Turd. But everybody calls him ST.
Oh, all right, that's fair.
But yeah. How are you?
I think one of the things that I noticed when you were reading off, I find that most of the horror that I tend to really gravitate to, I'm not saying that it's my favorite, but is South American and Asian horror.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're doing things like
incredible.
You know, I think the great part about South American and Asian horror is they haven't really sort of bought into the 3-act Hollywood structure, so you get these tales that sort of break form, right? And that's great because it's different, and I want different things. So there's like Mexican filmmakers and Argentinian horror filmmakers, like Tigers Are Not Afraid, which is a beautiful.
Oh, I love her so much.
It is a brutal and beautiful movie in turns. I mean, it's art. Like it elevates it. There's an Argentinian movie, and you probably know the director. I can't remember, but it's called not Terrifier, but Terrified.
Oh yeah,
and it's about a haunted neighborhood, not a house, but it's fantastic. And there's
scary as fuck.
Yeah, it's very, very frightening, and I just feel like they're doing really interesting things. Indonesian horror is hot, like Satan's Slaves, the remakes.
Jokar Anwar.
Yeah, and what's the one? The Devil May Take You, or
The Devil May Take You, I think.
Yeah, and The Devil May Take You 2.
Yeah,
which is like a Indonesian Gonzo Evil Dead movie.
Yeah,
and it's amazing. But they don't travel down those predictable paths that you expect them to. They're weird. They're different, and I really like that. So I think those are like what I'm really gravitating towards.
Yeah, the 3-act structure is it's not going to go away.
No,
because it's traditional and most people like that storytelling. But what I really love about this new generation of filmmakers is they don't give a shit about the rules, right? They are going to do what they want to do. And one of my favorite things that's come out of like this style of filmmaking and the streaming revolution is 75-minute movies, where it's like it's the story. There's no fat. It's like this is what the story is, and it's done, right? We don't have to worry about putting commercials in for when it's going to play on, the Saturday after. We don't care about that shit anymore, right? That's not the model that we use, and so like. There's not a producer that's saying, well, that's got to have another 15 minutes so that we can package that, with all the other movies that we sell. Nobody cares anymore, It's the same reason we get 3-hour movies too, because like you want to tell a 3-hour story, and if you can tell a 3-hour story, I'll watch it. Drive my car, the movie from last year. It seems like that would be the most boring, and I was engrossed. I was just so torn for those characters, and like just my heart is breaking. And it didn't seem like 3 hours at all. So like, I think the rules are just, they're there, and like you're going to be probably more, commercially successful if you follow the rules. But if you don't care, you can do whatever you want now, and I think that's great.
Yeah, in indie films, it's mostly it's outside of the studio machinery, and that's where the real interesting stuff happens. My kid was like, "Dad, I'm thinking about going to film school," and I was like, "Don't go to film school." I was like, "Just go make a film, and do it in Arkansas, where I'm from, and like that's how you get in." And I promise you, if you make it, your first one will suck. Make a short film. Your second one will suck less. Your third one will suck even less, and then people from Hollywood will be calling you. Like, that's the way in. You go out into the fields of America, or you go out into the country and make something, and it forces you to write well and to figure out how to use your resources, and that's how you do it. I mean,
the Terrifier people, Terrifier 2 that just came out, right? That they crowdsourced that, and it made $10 million on. It's supposed to play 3 days. It's now 7 weeks that it's been playing, and those are DIY guys from the East Coast. Those aren't Hollywood guys. And they broke in a big way and may have changed the way that like Hollywood looks at terms of like booking, like movie theaters and stuff like that. And like you're going to see people getting opportunities now because they made it for $250,000 and it's made $10 million. And that's they haven't even started selling the physical media yet. And those people are rabid, so they're going to make another $10 million probably on top of that for a movie that costs nothing. I tell people all the time. People come up to me and they're like, "What film school should I go to?" I'm like, "Take your camera on your phone and make a film." Right? If you go to, I tell people if they go to film school, do it for the networking, do it for the collaborations. That's the only reason to do it now, because you can find people that will in your neighborhood, your area, whatever, that will want to do it. So just do it. And he's right. Your first one's going to suck, and the second one will suck a little less. And then once you've done it 3 or 4 times, people go, "Wow, this is actually pretty polished and good," and you seem to have the structure down.
I have a perfect example of this trajectory, and I always mess up their names because I have friends with names very similar, but it's like Aaron Moorhead and Benson.
Yeah.
And so their first movie was called Isolation or something like that. Resolution. And it was like a cabin in the woods type thing, but it had a clever premise, but it was not a good movie. Their second movie was, but you could see there was potential.
Oh yeah.
And it was like about an addict that there was,
He's trying to get him clean.
Yeah.
So they go to this cabin in the woods and weird shit starts happening.
Yeah. And then their second one was much better.
Mm-hmm.
Their third one was amazing.
The third one's called The Endless.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the best Lovecraftian
Cosmic
movies
horror
I've seen in ages.
Right.
And it's so subtle.
Yeah.
That's the best part, is it's so subtle.
And then I think they might have had one. There was one called Spring. It was like a love story.
Spring is my favorite of theirs,
Yeah.
and it's a love story about a guy who falls in love with a girl who might be a squid.
Yeah. But so like they keep getting better, and they're all DIY outside of the studio system. But now they just directed the Moon Knight.
Yeah, they brought him in because like they deal with time in a lot of their stuff, and Moon Knight deals with time, and they're like, well, who can direct something about time? They go out and they get these guys who are making nothing movie. Like Resolution costs what, $5,000?
Yeah,
it's one room with 2 people. There's no budget to that at all.
And they both act in their movies too.
They act in their own movies.
They do all.
They're actually quite great.
You
know, I'm like, they show up in other people's movies now. But like Disney was like, yeah, let's go give those guys a shot. Making a $5,000 movie, and now they're doing Disney stuff.
And I feel like more so than any other time, the field is wide open.
Wide open.
You can do a movie or a book. I love this book because the title makes people so uncomfortable. There's a wonderful book by a Native American author called The Only Good Indians.
Yep, Stephen Graham Jones.
And it's so different than what we would normally see, but it's a fabulous book. there's a new one. I have not actually read it yet.
I have.
No, I have read that one.
Oh,
But there's a new one called White Horse.
Yes, that just came out last Tuesday.
Just came out, yeah. And again, Native American woman whose mother abandoned her when she was only a few days old. She inherits a bracelet. It has her mother's spirit attached to it. So her mother didn't abandon her. And it tackles a little bit on the edge of the missing and murdered Indigenous women. And that huge, huge problem. And taps right into it. And it's so good.
There's a movie called Blood Quantum that does very similar. It's a Native American zombie movie, and the Native Americans don't get attacked, and they can't understand why. And it's in Montreal, I think, because that was where a lot of the Indigenous, where they were just trying to strip them of their identities and send them to the state schools and stuff, and that's where all the mass graves are and stuff like that. It's like Indigenous filmmakers directing Indigenous people, and it's just like so unique for a zombie movie. Like I was so blown away. Or like
that
Train to
director
Busan.
Unfortunately just died.
Oh, that's such a bummer. But like Train to Busan is another one where like they have this really different look at like what a zombie movie can be. Like I've never cried in a zombie movie before. I cried like a baby at the end of Train to Busan. It's just incredible. So yeah, I agree.
Awfully quiet over there.
Just letting you guys go. So my first love of film has always been horror movies. They're the reason I'm a filmmaker, but I always ended up gravitating more towards comedy instead, because back in the 80s, they always told us, in Fangoria, do not start by making a horror film. You will be pigeonholed in the genre forever, and you'll never be able to make anything else. But now it feels like that's not the stigma as much anymore. Now that you're seeing comedians go into making horror films, it feels like, hey, this is a perfect time to cross over. And one of my next projects actually is going to be a horror movie. So it just seems like the time to dive into it.
Hotel 666, was that what it was called? What was the Foo Fighters?
Oh yeah, I still haven't watched it.
Studio 666, yeah.
It is very fun.
But I want to do something that kind of, like you're saying, the rules are out the window, and just play with a movie about. I like movies about filmmaking, about the process, and so I'd like to mix something up with how the rules of making the horror movies have changed into the movies. Not so much a screen thing, but a little different than that. Yeah,
there's definitely opportunity for that, for sure.
And also, like you were saying about the film school, there really isn't much of a reason to go outside of networking. I mean, with every movie available at your fingertips, you can watch every old movie and listen to every commentary track out there and pick up stuff that way.
But it's also it's easier to network when you have a product.
Oh yes.
So if you if you make a short film, you go to
it's a calling card.
You go to conventions and enter them in each convention's little film fest. And
I've literally done this. I did this for $100, and they'll you did that for $100? Yeah, I did that for $100. I mean, it took a lot of planning or whatever, but I
it's
do
not
that all the
time. It's not your time, but
right, yeah,
yeah.
Okay, so I say consistently, from installment to installment, Child's Play is by far the best of any horror series. I don't think it's even close. I think other series have the higher highs, and other series definitely have the lower lows, for sure. But the consistency of Child's Play from the very beginning all the way through the Chucky series, it's really, really fun on USA. I haven't caught up on season 2 yet, but season 1 is awesome.
It's because it's all Don Mancini.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the point I was going to make. It's been consistently the same writer or director the whole time. And I just think that's where I think a lot of the messiness gets involved with the series, like Halloween or Friday the 13th. I think they finally fixed the Friday the 13th thing. I think they're going to start coming out again. So that was pretty wild. The taking back of the rights and stuff like that. That was something I never saw in a million years. But because it's a different creative team for this Friday the 13th movie versus that Friday the 13th movie. And they want the mask to look a little bit different. They want Jason to move a little bit different. And they want, Michael to hold his knife this way instead of that way, and do the head tilt or what, they all want to put their little, idiosyncrasies on it. And so a lot of times what happens is they just dump a bunch of stuff on top and hope that it's,
And horror is one of the few places you can really get away with meta.
Oh, yeah.
Is, Cabin in the Woods. Think of the Final Nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
When they figure out that no, Freddy's actually gotten loose into our world, and it works, and it works well. And you can do any. There's a wonderfully terrible 80s horror flick called They Live.
It's not terrible.
No, it's terrible at all.
What are you talking about?
I was gonna say, with Ray-Bans that make it so you can see the alien, and it has the single best line ever.
Poor John Carpenter. I know that he's like a super. Everybody loves him now, right? And he's a rock star.
So much crap.
He got beat up for so many years, and all the guy did was make 10 classic movies, all-time classic movies. I mean, if you look at Halloween or The Thing or In the Mouth of Madness, which I think is
brilliant.
I think that's the best Lovecraftian movie ever made, right? All that guy did was just turn out classic after classic, and nobody would go to his movies. What? And now we go back and look at, somebody asked him, they were like, how does it feel, to have The Thing, re-examined now as a classic? He's like, I mean, I guess that's great now, but it certainly didn't help me make any movies then, and so he's one of the reasons, every time there's a sequel, and I'm not a huge fan of the new Halloween movies for a myriad of reasons, but I always think of John Carpenter holding his hand out, and he said the check just magically appears. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, fine. Hollywood Halloween Ends can be a huge piece of shit. That's fine. John Carpenter still got his money, and I can ignore it and just pretend like it's just the first one exists, and I don't even know what that is. So, but yeah, poor John Carpenter.
I know, but he's so wonderful.
Brilliant, yeah, but he's a little prickly. I'm sure he didn't do himself any favors, because he's not the most social guy in the world, and it's just kind of a grumpy old man. But I might be grumpy too if I made all those. Yeah, if I made all those classic movies and people are just like, ugh, I might be a little hurt about it too.
Yeah, he never recovered from that Invisible Man movie, did he?
Right.
I mean,
Stephen King was on.
he's supposedly directing a new movie, so I don't know if that's true or not. But
he was on Stephen Colbert, and he was asking about how, how does it feel to be, the
Godfather
writer
of
of
what?
and win all these accolades now, and when you started out, there were so many nasty things written about you. Stephen King said, "I'm still alive, and they're all dead," and it was wonderful.
Yeah, I asked John Waters a similar question, and he had a very similar answer. He's like, "What do I care? Those guys are all gone, and I'm still here."
Still going, still making movies.
What other bold horror statements do we have?
I don't know. I mean, why don't we open up to some questions?
Oh yeah, for sure. I was 100% going to do that. So what about you guys? What do you guys think for bold horror statements? Yes, right here.
This is just something that you remarked on that's really easy to make a film. I remember long ago some film professor told me that he warned us about not making our own films because you might get sued, and you put your own money into it, you might lose it all, and always buy a lot of insurance and beware of liabilities. Is there, if you make your own film, do you feel there's danger of something like that happening?
Well, I don't think they're going to come and take the nothing that I have. So if that's what you're asking, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination making boatloads of money off of my stuff. I would quite honestly be surprised if anybody cared that much. So the biggest thing for me, Lloyd Kaufman, who has made movies for 50 years for Troma, has really one rule, it's make sure that everybody's safe and then make a good movie, So like, and that's really my only, like I want to make sure that everybody, and we do, like I ran a live chainsaw in a house, I shot a shotgun in a house, I did all sorts of crazy shit that is very dangerous, but we made sure that like it was going to be safe when we did it. And I guess there's like no way to be 100% foolproof. You see like accidents happen with Alec Baldwin or like The Crow, all those years ago or whatever. But like, I mean, I can't be ruled by.
Have you ever purchased insurance, liability insurance?
Nah, I mean, I've never done anything that was like commercially relevant, so I don't think it was really. I mean, the filmmaking piece is more for me than anything else. So if I were to do it professionally, I would 100% make a LLC and do exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
so,
I had to get liability on my last production because some of the locations I was shooting at demanded that I have it. They were like, "Well, we can rent it to you if you get the insurance." And, it really wasn't that much.
Yeah.
We split it between all the different producers. And then it was kind of like, "Hey, we got insurance! Wow,
you feel like a real filmmaker, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The Ed Wood filmmakers.
I love Ed Wood
And,
filmmakers.
and everybody talks shit about Ed Wood, but you know what? They're talking about
We're still
Ed
watching
Wood.
his movies today. They're still good. I don't care what anybody says. I'll watch Brian the Monster right now with anybody, and we'll have a fun time. I promise you. Who else has some bold horror statements?
I don't like slashers.
Okay.
Like you were like, I like Chucky because it's funny and it's absurd. But like Halloween, I'm like, and I watch them, but I'm like, this is too real for me. Like, I like,
I want a monster.
Yeah, and because it's easier to compartmentalize those things. For me, I don't need a reminder that there's maniacs that want to kill me for whatever reason.
I'm always able to, like, since I know it's not real, if I'm watching something that was like, like the Dahmer thing, right? It just came out on Netflix, bothered me to no end. And it's just like, it happened, right? Or whatever, but like that, I can watch Hostel, I can watch Saw, I can watch all that. Doesn't bother me one bit, right? Or like the movies where, and they are misogynistic, a lot of them. And like, I have to, think about that stuff while I'm watching it. You have to be aware of those things. It's okay to watch problematic things as long as you know they're problematic. And so, but yeah, I totally get not liking. I mean, the slashers are the non-cerebral part of horror, and so, but part of me just loves watching people run around with some crazy weapon, trying to kill one another.
Like that commercial where they go.
That's good. Yes.
The car, they go underneath all the stuff.
Let's go hide behind the chainsaws.
And then the bad guy's like,
What are you doing? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, back there.
So my thing, gore is not scary.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two, and a lot of times you get into a movie and it's supposed to be a horror movie, and it's just gory with blood and intestines and the gross squishy sounds.
Yeah.
But I'm not scared. I'm just
Gross.
Yeah. So.
The Hitcher.
I want to be scared.
Well, there's.
Rutger Hauer movie.
I'm sort of like. There's two different, feelings for that. So I get what you're saying because it is just gross, right? I love gross movies. The grosser the better, right? Drop buckets of intestines on me. I love it. But to me, like what I find sort of scary about the gore stuff is that that's really what's going on inside of me, and so like seeing that viscera is just really, I don't know. It puts me in that place, I think, of like, and so feeling that feeling of like experiencing it without experiencing it, which is, I mean, ultimately what horror is all about, So yeah, and then the other side of me is like, I love the really sophomoric silly ones from like the 70s where it's just they went down to the butcher shop and go, give me all of the whatever you got left over, we're making a horror movie. And so But yeah, no, I mean, I don't find gore scary. For the most part, sometimes in body horror, it can be used effectively for that purpose.
Just thinking the color out of space.
Yeah,
Does it quite
yeah.
well.
So I mean, yeah, because body horror does. Because the body horror to me is like your body rebelling against you. So that's, how do we look at something like cancer or something like that? It's super depressing if we just talk about cancer. But if like a color from space turns you into a monster, I think I can palate that and still get the allegorical references of like my body betraying me.
I think gore can make scary more scary, but it can't replace it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the usually gore is. I mean, at this point, it's a trope. So it's it's you have kills, kill counts, and people, and it's a very. I don't know if I'm going to say is juvenile way of looking at it, but horror movies are traditionally marketed to young people. That they're about young people. It's rare that horror movies. You see that more nowadays.
Yeah.
Horror movies are usually ageist. They're only focused on the teen. The sexually active. It's rare that you have stories about adults, and the ones that you do have stories about are really effective. Like my mom just died of dementia, and so I watched this movie with it's the taking of Sarah Logan.
Deborah Logan.
Deborah Logan.
Yeah.
It's about a woman who is losing her faculties.
Or is she?
Or is she possessed, or possessed by some entity? You don't know. And I was like, God damn, this is too hard for me, because I was going through it with my mom. But to your point, like gore, I don't think gore is inherently scary. It's kind of the money shot. It's like laugh, like it's actually a release of tension. It's like, so you have these moments like in music of tension and release. Like you build the tension, and then it's released so that you can build to the next little crescendo, and it's effective in that way. But for me, the scary things are always the things that are unspoken and unseen.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking, the classic horror novel is The Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah.
And whatever walks there walks alone.
The original scares the shit out of me this day.
Yeah. You never know in the book. Did it really happen?
Or is it all in your mind?
Is this somebody losing their mind? Mm-hmm. Is this a collective, like mass hysteria thing? It's so well done. And it's never on camera. The horror is almost never on camera. It is just insidious. Yep. And it's check the cat scary.
Yeah.
It's you read that book, you hear a noise, and you check the cat.
Yeah,
the cat doesn't freak out.
Yeah.
It's gonna get you.
Yeah. I want to piggyback off of what you said about adult horror, because I think we're really having a renaissance of adult horror right now. There's just stuff that really speaks to the horrors of aging. Like Relic is, you were talking about Deborah Logan. There's a movie called Relic that is just incredible about dementia. Same thing, where it's just like,
it will rip your heart out.
On it.
It's
anything for Jackson.
Yeah.
And this is a funny side note, but the filmmaker of that makes Hallmark films. Mm-hmm. That's what he does. He makes these confections, these like sugary Hallmark movies, and then he goes and he's like, well, this is what I really want to do. And
you'd be surprised the overlap.
Yeah.
You would be surprised because how many people do Hallmark movies and horror movies back to back all the time.
But the folks that own Harlequin are the same people that own the Executioner book series for guys.
Yeah.
Same company.
But another really good adult horror movie is The Night House. Deals with grief.
Yeah.
My friends. I mean, this is one of my. So I didn't get into talking and networking with all these people to know famous people, but my friends who wrote this movie called. Oh shit! I forget what the first one was called. But they wrote The Night House, and then they wrote the new Hellraiser, right? And the new Hellraiser is this really heartbreaking.
Bruckner.
Yeah, thank you. Bruckner's the director, and Luke Piotrowski and Ben Collins are the writers. Luke Piotrowski was the guy who convinced me that I should get a writing partner, because we would talk, and I just tell him these things, and he's like, yeah, this is the kind of stuff that I just bounce off of Ben. He's like, you sound exactly like me. You want it to be perfect, and Ben just wants that shit out as fast as possible. He's like, get a writing partner. They will help you. And I'm like, okay,
I have
guess.
one for screenplays.
Yeah, and I did it, and it immediately made me a better writer. Like, it was unbelievable. I just couldn't even. I thought writing is such a solitary, hobby or focus or whatever, and it's really not. Like, one of my favorite things about this convention is the networking and meeting all these people and being able to bounce ideas off of people, because like we do it all the time. I can tell you right now that the best person that I ever got to bounce ideas off of, I got from this conference. So, and it's just putting yourself out there and being open, and like I say, keep your skills sharp. That's another thing that I like to tell people. I like to write a lot. I like to edit a lot, so that when I do jump into making a movie or writing a screenplay or something like that, I'm not starting from scratch. I got a running start already. I'm not shaking the rust off. It's just like, let's do this. Let's go.
I think it's important to note that I'm sorry. I want you to talk.
I feel I did this to him in the first panel we did together too.
I'm a director. I just
you stand back and watch.
Well, maybe you can. I think whatever. Like, if you're gonna, I think writing is the most important thing on a small budget.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're, I think if you're making a movie, and this is tended towards, rather than writing like prose and fiction, it's tended more towards film.
Mm-hmm.
But the one way you can really exceed your budget is by spending more time in writing, and understanding. And I think, honestly, when you're talking about, it made me think, when you're talking about Carpenter, his early movies failing probably helped him.
I'm sure it did.
Because it forced him to work within these parameters of budget in creative ways. And that's the most important thing. So, like I have a screenplay that we're about to be in production for, and I wrote it distinctly for one location, which I own, and for 3 actors, and that's it. Like, and just like I knew my resources, I know, like, I knew exactly what I could get a hold of, and everything else is written within those parameters, and it forced me to be as creative as possible. And I think that's really important. Like, what makes these indie films, the Benson and Moorhead, like, their writing is really good,
phenomenal.
And
same thing with Piotrowski and Collins that I was just talking about. That's their bread and butter, the writing. Dark Times is their first movie. I knew it would. Just
that's a good one. Yeah,
kids on bikes, except dark.
The limitations make you more creative.
Yeah.
I totally believe that.
I do too.
It's kind of like the chart it's like a pyramid or a triangle. You got time, you got money, and then you got quality.
Yep.
And so one of them is going to suffer, right?
Yeah.
And so when you don't have any money, then you can see where that chart goes.
Yeah.
What is it? Cheap, fast, and good. Pick 2.
Yep, pick 2. And if you can do 2, you can make it. You can make it work. I promise you. Because I have done stuff that I'm proud of on $0. Like, the most money I spent was the pizzas that I bought for my crew. Literally, that was the most money I spent.
You're talking about
feed
quality.
People, they'll be more than happy at the time.
It just so happened that the year we had Joe Lansdale as our guest of honor, and I'm a huge fan of his. And one of the movies made from one of his short stories is Bubba Hotep, which if you've never seen it,
brilliant movie.
And it just so happened that at work we had a book signing with Bruce Campbell, who played the lead character in that. And so I have signatures from both of them on the DVD, and I was showing it to Bruce, and he said, I loved being in this movie because the writing was so good. And, this is a guy whose bread and butter is B movies.
Getting smashed in the face with stuff.
Yeah. And,
I believed Ossie Davis was JFK. I believe
totally.
that. I believe that 100%. It's a great movie.
Because that's what a
showing
movie
tomorrow in the video.
Yeah,
you laugh the first way, and the first time you watch it, you laugh all the way through, and the second time you watch it, you cry. You know, it's just the writing is so good. You realize
It's a real roller coaster. It really is.
Just fabulous. I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And such a unique, crazy, wonderful story.
Anything by Joe Lansdale.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah. His horror.
John Dies at the End is him too, right?
No, that's David Wong.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Although if you're looking for great, funny horror, John Dies at the End is the first book. The best book title ever. This book is full of spiders. Seriously, dude, don't touch it. Is the second book, and the third book is what the hell did I just read?
Yeah, and that author's name is actually, he's gone to his real name. Hargan. I can't remember his first name.
Yeah.
P-A-R-G-I-N.
But he writes. It's the pseudonym of David Wong because that's the main character in all of the books.
But he got a little flack for appropriating an Asian name, and he's not Asian. So, and he should have gotten the flag, but it was the character in the book.
Yeah.
It was a meta, sort of a meta exploration of everything.
Don't be afraid to explore some of those things. Just be ready for the feedback, or the blowback, or whatever it is. You can write about anything. You just got to take the consequences that you do when you do. So
right, like in books, I'm like am fine with offending people. I just want to intentionally offend them and not inadvertently offend them, and that's a matter of like awareness. So like on this book, I have sensitivity readers because it deals with it deals with South American dictatorships, and it deals with like the American South in like the 30s. Like I had to make sure it was read because I don't want to inadvertently offend anybody. You know,
you want to deliberately.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
the 5-star reviews. I love reading the 5-star reviews. I love, anybody likes getting prices. I really love the 1-star reviews, especially if they write a paragraph or two, because I want to know they hated my book. They really, really hated it, and here's why. And it's like, you know what? But you were paying attention, weren't you?
I say to this day that a 1-star review is just as good as a 5-star review because you had a very specific reaction to it.
A strong reaction.
I'll tell you right now, I can tell you movies that I hate, like that I walked out of to this day, right? And I can tell you movies that I love, but my biggest cardinal sin of any movie is I don't remember anything about it 10 minutes later.
The boring.
Yep. And it's 90% of movies.
No way.
Just like, oh, that was a thing. Wow, okay, cool. I just spent 90 minutes doing that, I guess. Yeah.
And they all win Academy Awards.
You get the impression, my impression is that an awful lot of horror films, there are some gems that are coming out now, but there are also a lot of them are very bland and like cookie cutters, like the same thing I've seen again and again.
I mean, that's always going to be the case. There's just going to be a lot of people out there that aren't super creative, that have the resources available to them. And so they're just going to throw together something that's just sort of pedestrian, and just kind of bland, like you're talking about.
But I think also it's because Hollywood, if it's through the studio system, Hollywood is risk averse.
Yes, for sure.
So that is why we get
they want to make
remakes.
something that made money before.
Right, exactly.
So it's real close to it.
Like the funny story. I'm friends with I'm not going to tell you the guy, but I'm friends with a screenwriter who wrote one of the Marvel movies, and he was tasked or asked to create, what they're searching for IPs, recognizable names. That's what they want. So when they remake, the Avengers, not the comic book, but like the Avenger spy, or they remake the Munsters or whatever, it's because it's a recognizable IP. And this screenplay writer was like, they asked me they did a bunch of focus groups, and the thing that everyone around the world was aware of, we want this to be a vehicle for Chris Evans, but everyone around the world is aware of the Bermuda Triangle. Everyone in the world knows the Bermuda Triangle. It has great IP, but no stories about it. So we want you to write a screenplay about the Bermuda Triangle with Chris Evans in mind, right? And that's Hollywood, right? That's why you get these, someone has to be attached. You have to have an attached director, and then they have to focus group it and do a profit and loss to figure out, how is this going to make money? Like so they did focus groups in Asia, which is a big market. Like that's where you make money.
That's where you make all your money now.
Yeah. So in Asia, everyone in Asia knows about the Bermuda Triangle. So it's you know it's a that's why you get designed by committee products, right? And that's why they suck. Sorry, kid. We've been cursing, and I forgot there's a kid in here. Oh.
And now you've made her cry.
I know. It's like,
Well, we talked bad about Marvel properties, and some people are very sensitive about that. Right. Oh, okay.
Okay, good.
But it is
But
an
yeah,
assembly
it's,
line.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what makes something like Blumhouse so great is that he just gives an artist $5 million, and he's like, I don't care, it's $5 million. It's not going to break me if I lose that. I can make the $5 million back without a doubt. You know, so he's like, I'm going to break even on this no matter what. So Jordan Peele, here's $5 million. Why don't you go make Get Out? You know, change the whole thing. You know?
And what made that incredible was the writing.
Yeah.
Like the budget for that movie couldn't have been, you know, I mean, obviously it's $5 million or whatever less,
Right.
but
$5 million or less is the
Yeah.
Blumhouse. You know, so
I guess it would be fewer.
yeah, you're right.
But
But yeah, so they'll make some weird shit, you know, because like we can make that back. I don't care. Even if we just have to sell it to streaming or whatever, we can make it back. They've done it on several of their titles already. Or they're just like, ooh, this is maybe not a theatrical one. We can maybe release that on Amazon Prime.
And another version of that is like, oh, let's make Trimmer 7, and it can be an empty box with the Trimmer's name on it. As long as we don't spend over a certain amount, we're guaranteed to make the money.
Well, it's what happened with Halloween Ends, right? It was $45 million the first weekend, right? Everybody, there are some people that like it. For general purposes, most people are very not happy with what they got. But it made $45 million the first weekend because it's Halloween, right? And then if you notice, it went to like $9 million the second weekend. It was like one of the biggest drops I've ever seen, you know. And the people were like, well, it's because it's on streaming or it's on, you know, and it's like, well, Halloween Kills was on streaming too, day and date. Why didn't that kill the box? Was it because this one's shitty? You know, maybe, you know, but they don't care because like they didn't spend $45 million on the new Halloween movie. So it's all gravy now, you know. They don't even, you know, just let Peacock have it now. Who cares? So it's just one of those things, you know. It's like it's a box that has name value. That used to be a huge thing in the 80s and 90s. How many Silent Night, Deadly Night movies are there? 5, 6?
There's a bunch.
Yeah. Who else has some bold horror statements? Anybody?
I was going to say, I
Questions?
really like your, just take your damn phone out and make something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? You don't have to show it to anybody if you don't like it, if it's like embarrassing or whatever. I certainly didn't show some of the early stuff that I did, or like the early stuff that I wrote where I'm just like, yeah, that just needs to go in a box for me, and nobody else gets to see this ever, you know? I wrote a book, and it's just fucking terrible. It is just, it's sitting in a box in my house right now. I'm almost embarrassed that I wrote it. But, you know, like, it's one of those things. Like, I just had to get it out, right? And then, you know, the next time that I did something, it was a little bit better, and, you know, so.
Yeah, fail better.
Fail better, yeah.
And
The first step of being good at something is kind of sucking at something. Yeah. I mean, Finn from Adventure Time's 100% right. Or Jake, excuse me, not Finn.
And, you know, it doesn't matter how much money you throw at something if the
doesn't make it
story
better.
Isn't there, yeah. I was thinking, how much money did they spend on Cowboys and Aliens?
Which I sort of like 25 million or something like that.
That movie was fun.
You can't call it a good movie.
I fell asleep twice in Princess or Prince Valerian and the Thousand Planets.
Oh, that's terrible.
It was beautiful.
250
but I
million,
couldn't figure out what the heck they were talking about.
The original Avatar, it was so pretty. But it was so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Or it wasn't
I
even
thought
bad.
the plot
It was
was
just
a little
I
better.
think they're about to find out what
was
a big mistake they made.
Bland. It was not terrible.
Really
It just hit all the
pretty,
beats exactly when you expected them. It was a story that had no surprises. Yeah, I mean, it's like...
Had a good villain. The villain, Stephen Lang's amazing in that movie.
Yeah. But he's better in the one where he's a blind guy.
Don't Breathe.
Yeah, yes. Don't Breathe. That's a good horror movie.
Yeah.
And that had a budget of maybe... Like, I would say it had maybe a $3 million budget.
Something like that.
And I would bet $1 million of it was just to him.
Barbarian's another example. Barbarian was not my favorite movie. Some people really love Barbarian. It feels like two movies that they smashed together to me. But that doesn't matter because other people really dug it, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, it's made all this money now.
I think Barbarian is notable. I did not like Barbarian, but I really appreciated the fact that they broke form.
Yeah.
So it's like a movie.
Talk about filmmaking rules.
Yeah. It's like 30 minutes of a movie, and then it stops, and a new movie starts. And then later you see how they connect. And it's not, it's not groundbreaking. But, like, I really appreciate that they just said, fuck the 3-act structure. We're going to do it like this, I like that, And I'm glad that people like the movie because I might not like it, but
yeah, I'm not. I'm never.
I want
it
to succeed.
I'm not the gatekeeper. I'm not the guy who says what's good. I have an opinion on what I like and what I don't like, and if you liked it, I'm happy for you because, like, I'm glad that somebody enjoyed it because I certainly did not. But in
author land, when we talk about it, we say I was just not the right audience for it, and that's true. I mean, it's like ultimately, I was just not the right audience for that movie. So,
we got 2 minutes, but yeah.
When you hear about whether to publish yourself or go to a publisher, one of the reasons is supposed to be the publisher is a gatekeeper, and yet for an artistic viewpoint, that's a negative, I think, that you, but you have to throw a lot of
You have to make
stuff.
Concessions if you're going to go to a publisher.
Well,
it's like
or they're not
Hollywood.
going to let. It's like Hollywood. They're not going to let something through if it's formulaic or something.
Yeah.
But you have to make sure that when you self-publish stuff, that it is grammatically correct.
Well, sure.
It doesn't have, and unfortunately,
it's really
a great deal of self-published stuff did not have that professional editor look at it.
Right.
And so that's
true.
where the gatekeeper is helpful.
Yeah. Well, but it's like then you pick out the
you get
gem
the stuff that might be
really
bland, but you don't tend to get the really
well, and I'll say this: I'm a traditionally published author, so I went through that method of going through publishers. For me, it was important that my books were in bookstores, and unless you go through traditional publishing, they have a chokehold on all the distribution. So
you might get in a little mom and pop shop here and there, but you're not getting in Barnes and Noble.
Yeah. It has to be returnable. Is the thing.
Everything's kind of shrunk as far as the amount of bookstores and stuff.
I will be pimping these.
Well, hey, everybody everybody talk about your stuff real quick before we wrap up.
So, my latest movie is Revenge of Zoe. It's on Tubi for free.
Tubi's amazing.
Awesome.
Tubi has everything, literally everything.
And it's a comedy.
We didn't even talk about comedy horror either. Damn it. Uncle Peckerhead.
Oh, God, I love that movie.
Tremors is one of the best creature features ever.
My name is John Hornor Jacobs. I've got like 11 novels, but these are my two most recent out, and you can get them in any bookstore. There's none in the dealer's room though. No sellers have them. They didn't get any. I don't know.
I just got the rights back on my stuff from traditional. My publisher went under, so I'm in the process of working and getting those back out. I'm going to self-pub them, but I'm going to go through Ingram Spark because I want them in the store where I work. So.
I'm currently selling nothing, but you can come back into this room at 9 p.m. and watch Marry, Fuck, Kill, Universal Monsters if you want. It should be fun.
Godzilla.
Yeah.
All of the above.
All of the above. All right, thank you, everybody.
That's not universal.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Play-In Podcast Network. If you enjoyed our show, please check out D&D Journey of the 5th Edition and Ragnarok Enroll a Scion Hero to Ragnarok Story. Also, check out our Patreon page for more content and behind-the-scenes things, as well as joining us for a one-shot game or two.